It's time to show the world what you can do.
Hi, and welcome back to the Inside of My Head. Let's kick off Godzilla Month, where every week I'm putting Mechagodzilla up against a different opponent, and I'm kicking off with the Jaegers and the Kaiju from Pacific Rim. After that, we'll see if there's anything from the Transformers universe that can stand up to him, and it'll all build to an epic showdown where I put him up against other supervillains from the Godzilla universe. But for now, let's look at Mechagodzilla versus Pacific Rim. And it might not be as big a foregone conclusion as it first seemed, because yes, MG does seem like he is in a different league. But let's start by taking a closer look at the big guy. Slightly butthurt at the fact that Godzilla had knocked humanity off the top of the food chain, this rich dummy right here and his cash-rich multinational Apex Industries set about creating an anti-Titan weapon, and using the king of the monsters, the most powerful Titan on the planet, as a blueprint. Now, I've always wondered why they would choose to give him the appearance of Godzilla. After all, I mean, if they were designing an anti-Titan weapon from scratch, I mean, it could have looked like anything. A tank, a walker, just like a huge sphere. But apparently, it was designed to visually intimidate as well as everything else. And let me quote the creature designer. "Seeing something skeletal akin to himself would have a very unnerving effect on Godzilla." Would it though? You look like me, and it's weird. No! Apex Industries crafted and engineered a metallic behemoth 400 foot tall, and we don't have an official weight figure, but seeing the materials he's made of, I've seen estimates on the web saying that he's 200,000 tons, others saying that he's 4 times Godzilla's mass, which would put him at 400,000 tons. Like, he's a beast, there's no other way to say it. His uplink to Ren Surisawa means that he has human-level reflexes, and his colossal weight doesn't seem to hinder the speed of his movement in the slightest. And on top of this, he can supercharge his blows with plasma for an absolutely terrifying impact. And so far, I've only covered his physical attributes, not even his weapons. He's got buzzsaw claws, shoulder-mounted rockets, jaw grinders, a tail drill, and of course, an A-74 proton scream cannon, which overpowered Godzilla's atomic breath. I also read that the guy can swim. According to Jared Krzyzewski, Mechagodzilla's rockets could be switched to jets for underwater propulsion. One thing he can't do is fly, but he does have thrusters on his back that can fire him forward in quick bursts. This guy is so OP, it is crazy. Now, I was originally going to put this guy up against a team of Jaegers, but seeing how MG is nearly double the height of Gypsy Danger at 260 foot, and considering how easily megakaiju rip these guys up in Uprising, it's pretty obvious that MechaG goes through my Jaeger team like a knife through butter. Gypsy Danger's plasma cannon doesn't even leave a mark, Striker Eureka's blades might pierce MG's armor, but if he's in that close, he's open to an absolute battering from a supercharged plasma blow, which I think would just take him to pieces. I was thinking that maybe Apex's speed and agility keeps him in the fight for a little while, but one blast from MechaG's proton cannon puts him and anyone else who happens to be on the field of play out of the game. So he's going to have to dance around like a gymnast to avoid that beam. Maybe he could keep MechaG busy for long enough for someone to spill a can of Coke down the control panel. So I'm not going to use the control panel thing, but MechaG does have a couple of other weaknesses. His reliance on hollow earth power might be something that could be cut off or limited somehow. The Ghidorah skulls might be worth a shot. If you could get to the one that's purportedly inside his body, it might shut him down completely. Do it. But based on what we saw in GVK, none of our guys are even getting close. Perhaps sending a Jaeger to destroy this Ghidorah skull that Ren is sitting in right here might mess him up a bit, but if the spirit of Ghidorah has already taken him over and he's gone rogue anyway, that might not have any effect at all. And I doubt that anyone has left an axe around that's been supercharged with atomic breath, so the only thing I could possibly figure is that our Jaegers use their ultimate weapon of last resort, or set themselves to self-destruct, then kamikaze themselves at MG, trying to get as close as possible without getting obliterated, and then maybe all exploding at once, or in very quick succession. This might be able to take out this crazy powerful juggernaut, but even if that did work, there's no winner here. Everyone loses. So let's take a fresh approach and enlist a few of the Pacific Rim Kaiju for help, because actually I think they might stand a greater chance of scoring some damage. Knifehead at 315 foot could stand to do some damage with the blade on its head, but I reckon MG's buzzsaw claws cause massive damage before he takes him out with his drill tail. I wondered if Raijin could absorb one of MG's supercharged punches with his faceplates and reflect the energy back, but I reckon Mechagodzilla never lets Raijin get that close and hits him from range with the proton scream, and there's so much energy in that the faceplates overload and shatter into 100 pieces. One thing MechaG can't do is fly, so anything that can stay high and out of his reach might have a chance with a projectile attack, and Otachi's acid spray could definitely cause Mechagodzilla some problems. We saw how it melted all of the materials that made up this building, so I reckon this is going to do at least some damage to Mechagodzilla's armor. Problem is Mechagodzilla's own ranged attack, that proton scream cannon again. If Otachi takes a hit from that thing, it could well cut her in half. But what if Mechagodzilla was susceptible to an EMP? Wouldn't it be handy if there was a kaiju that could blast out an EMP? Oh! You see where I'm going? So let's take a look at Leatherback, a category 4 kaiju with 6 eyes that walks on its knuckles like a gorilla and that has a preference for using hit and run tactics, and of course can generate a strong
Don't look at my bum!
electromagnetic blast from a large 4-pronged organ on its back that somehow charges up with large amounts of energy before letting rip. Now physically, Leatherback probably isn't that much of a challenge for Mechagodzilla, standing at just over half his size, but if he can knock out Mechagodzilla's circuitry, he might be able to disable him for long enough to get in and rip through some of that armor before getting into the more vital components. Now, it's been suggested that Mechagodzilla might be impervious to this attack, as Apex would have developed him to combat not just Godzilla, but all Titans, including the Muto, which also has an EMP attack. Remember, the male Muto has got the EMP Stompy Stomp, and the female has got the EMP Bubble. If this is the case, then it's rumored that Mechagodzilla's chassis can act as a Faraday cage. What's a Faraday cage, you ask? Well, it's a metal structure that after you step into it can take a hit of lightning and dissipate electricity around its structure and safely into the ground, keeping your ass nice and peachy. Actually, I think a car can act as a Faraday cage, if I'm not mistaken. You know what? I don't know if a Faraday cage can dissipate an EMP being more about magnetism rather than currents that can travel through metal. Another argument would be that Mechagodzilla runs on Hollow Earth energy, so would an EMP affect it at all? I saw people arguing online about how an EMP works, like does it disrupt the electrical current, in which case the EMP wouldn't work, or does it fry the electrical components themselves, in which case the EMP would work. Either way, my argument to all this would be that no, we don't know how Hollow Earth energy works, but nor do we know how an EMP generated by this scrotal type thing on a kaiju from another dimension would work, so potato. So I'm not even sure that Leatherback could do this. I'm just saying that I reckon that he would have the best chance.
But wait! There's more!
Let's talk about the megakaiju, shall we? Now, megakaiju's listed height is 500 foot, which of course is taller than Mechagodzilla at 400 foot. Now, as you probably know, megakaiju sometimes stands up like this, like a centaur, so I don't know if that's 500 foot in that posture. If that's the case, then I reckon he's probably about proportionally equivalent to Mechagodzilla. And given Mechagodzilla's offensive capabilities here, I reckon Mechagodzilla wins this.
However,
if the megakaiju is 500 foot while he's on all fours, well, all sixes, that doesn't sound right, but that's what it is, he's got 6 legs, right? Then check out this graph, because he becomes a hell of a lot bulkier in all proportions. And if that's the situation, I reckon that megakaiju, walking mountain that it is, can probably take this.
maybe.
But there might be one more thing from the Pacific Rim universe that could take Mechagodzilla down, and that's these things. Now, these are the things that Newton used to fuse the 3 kaiju together to form megakaiju. Now, I reckon these things could get close to MechaG just because of the sheer quantity of them. There's going to be way too many for MechaG to fight off. Sure, his firepower could take out the most of them, but there's still a few getting through. And I mean, when you see the proton scream, it takes out entire city blocks. So there would have to be enough of them, and ideally coming at him from different directions. Now, if enough of them get through, they can fuse together and fuse his joints together maybe to restrict his movement. Remember, these things can be seen kind of like melting together to form a kind of hardened bone. How strong this stuff is, well, we don't know. But I reckon it'll be strong enough to cause Mechagodzilla some problems. If you fuse his knees, locking them, he might even overbalance. They might be able to get through the armor and into the vital components and cause some damage there. This would cause Mechagodzilla to start flailing around, start ripping at his own armor, ripping out his own components, trying to get to these things that are crawling through his organs before they reach his internal power core and burrow into the heart of it before he powers down and falls over. I don't know, I'm reaching here. I know I'm reaching. But interesting thought, no? Make sure you let me know if you think there's anything in the Pacific Rim universe that could hold a candle to Mechagodzilla, and make sure you're subscribed for my video on Mechagodzilla versus Transformers. Oh, and I'm going to do a video on the things that I want to see in GVK2. And until then, please feel free to get out of my head, and I will see you very soon for the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and cheerio, bye!